Good evening, fellow Plexers. Today's video is totally cold. I only have a few things set up, and it's going to be to help Josh in the Plex Pals Facebook group. So Josh has a bunch of custom albums, and he wants to move his library for his music to a new location and preserve the custom metadata. Well, I'm under the impression from my experience with a movie or a TV show library that if Plex finds the movie or episode correctly with a match without having to use fixed match, that you can then do custom metadata edits and then copy your files to a new location, add the new path into Plex, rescan, preserve all your existing metadata, and then remove the original path, rescan. You'll have all your original metadata, and then delete the media at its original location. I'm not as informed about that same process in a music library, so I thought I'd run a test. He was using a Spafford Live album, which probably has no metadata that exists for it. In a database, so to speak. So I have 5 Spafford albums that also don't have metadata in a database. And then I have this one compilation. So what I want to do is I want to drop them all into MusicBrainz Picard to look at them first. And I have other tutorial videos on this, and even one for a custom compilation CD that would be similar information to what I'll talk about here. If I hit cluster, that simply breaks them up into their own albums. So if I look at this first one called Hindsight, a live compilation, there doesn't have to be a Plex metadata match for a music library if the album contains enough information, or if the individual songs contain enough matching metadata. So we have the artist, we have the album name, we have a date, we have an album artist, and we have uniform album art across all songs. And if you open it up, you can see that every song has it. Now, if one song had the wrong album art or didn't have the rest of the matching metadata, you could fix that. So that's the same for all these, including this Folk Rock Essentials, which I don't know where I got it from, but it's a nice compilation. So I've already done this. This is the only setup I've done. If I scan this top album, you can watch down at the bottom, it's trying to scan for it, and it's just given up without finding anything. So all these albums are the same, except for this last one. And watch what happens when we scan for that. There's 98 tracks in it, and that count is going down because it's matching each song to some other album that exists in the database. So MusicBrainz Picard is pretty smart. It can take the song, take the track length, and generally match it to its original album, even if one song might be on 3 or 4 different albums by a particular artist. They're not all usually the same track length. And it's not really doing this based on embedded metadata, it's doing it on how long the track length is and the metadata of what the song is. So that album has now disappeared here, and I have all these possible albums. And like this album has 60 songs, and only one of them was pulled in from this compilation album, and one here. So all of this is not what we need. MusicBrainz Picard won't help us to match to an album that doesn't exist for all the songs. So I'm just going to highlight everything. Well, it's still working down here, so I can't drag it back to the left until these last few albums finish. So if I drag it back, I can recluster. The 98 songs are back in. and then I can simply highlight all of these and hit the delete key. So right now I'm just using MusicBrainz Picard to assure myself that this album and the rest will scan in as unlisted albums, and will add them to a test music library on a test Plex server. Then I'll make some metadata changes within Plex to then see if I move this to a new location and add the media as an extra path to rescan to see if they become duplicates, and if the duplicate album will have the same metadata change. It may not, but this is the grand experiment with this subject. So I can ditch this, and I've got two windows open up on my file browser, and this is Pop! OS. It's a Linux distro. I'm going to cut these. I'm going to go to my older Synology NAS where I have a shared media folder of all public domain. This isn't public domain, but it's still a test server. I have sort folders for each library type. I'll go into the music library, and here's the main music library with just a few public domain titles. I'll create a new folder. And just name it Music Old to represent Josh's original location. And I'll paste those in. So let's see how long that will take. Okay, so it's not going to be long. So I can go over to the Plex web app and change to that old server. I think I'm already there. Yes, I'm already there. And I can start adding the library because this will finish before I'm done. I'll pick music. I'll name it music-old. Again, to represent Josh's original location. I'll hit next. I'll browse, and this is my Docker container alias for my shared media folder on this NAS. I'll go into the music library sort folder. I'll pick the old, and now that the files have moved, I'll click add. And there's nothing that needs to be changed under here, and if Josh has changed something, he should let me know. This default settings, or all these default settings, will make a database match if the embedded metadata is robust, and if not, it will just use the embedded metadata to create an unmatched album. So let's add that, and let's go into this new music library as it scans. So again, if any of these albums did not have poster artwork, album artwork, it would not have shown up. So it looks like these all came in, and again, they're unlisted. There's no information about the band. There's nothing really here besides just a year and not even a full release date. So now we have the one various artist entry coming in. And of course the cover comes in too. And again, there's not much info here, but the original metadata said it was pop. And we have an album artist here. And even though none of these are in an official database, the original metadata had a genre attached to it. So now we have to decide what we're going to edit. So let me go back to my folk rock album, and let me just go into review. So I'm going to put this for 3 or 4 of the albums. Save changes, and now we have this. Just to simulate some custom metadata. So let's do it with let's just do the first 2. Let's check to make sure they're there. Okay, so far so good. This is our custom metadata test. So let's go back, and this time we'll copy, not cut. We'll create a new test folder. Call it music-new. We'll paste those same albums in. So now I have to wait. Well, a little bit at least. So back in Plex, we'll edit this library, manage, edit, add folders, and now I'll get ready to add the new path, but I won't add it completely until the files are fully there. So I'll browse to the new path just like I did creating the library. Go into my music library sort folder, and now pick new. And at this point I have a minute left before I can add them. So let's talk about a movie or a TV show library. The best tool on earth to make sure media scans in properly is FileBot. It's available under Windows, a Mac, and Linux like I'm using it. Now, I have to hold down the Shift key to get to it, but FileBot since version 5 comes with its own expressions, and you can simply pick Organize Episodes for Plex. FileBot will create a folder, as long as it's not on a NAS and it's local. We'll create a folder called Media, and inside that we'll create a folder called TV Shows, and in that it will place the renamed TV show files, and it will use the TMDB source ID and the folder name, and then it will create the season folder, and the rest of the episodes will all be formatted correctly. That series will match on the first scan, and you'll never have to use fixed match. I only name from TVDB because they list virtual TV series there, like the Looney Tunes or Tom and Jerry or even Ken Burns films. So I use my own custom expressions that name to the TVDB. I do not add the TVDB source ID, and I add some extra information that we can show you on this test server. So my extra information is just throwing the year in, and then throwing some media characteristics in, and whether the file has an embedded English or unknown subtitle. So media info installed along the side lets me get this information, and the information in my expression checks to see what language the subtitle is if it's embedded, and if it's an external SRT subtitle, I'll have to go into a movie library for that. So if it's an SRT subtitle, FileBot will also determine the language and apply the 3-digit language code. Now, this original media has an embedded subtitle, and I've added a external subtitle just so you can see how it names it. Because there's an embedded subtitle, it gets this information, and the external subtitle has the same exact name, so it gets that too. The only thing FileBot can't do is tell apart a default English subtitle from a hearing impaired subtitle or a forced subtitle. But you can flag the file names, and then it will add those flagged extensions properly. Okay, so let's go back into our music library, and now we'll add this other path. When I save changes, Plex will automatically rescan. So we'll let it finish, but this is the do or die moment. I wasn't sure how a music library would react to the same steps to use in a movie and TV show library. Alright, we're almost done. It looks like I have a couple people streaming on my regular server. A couple friends. Okay, so if we click into this, we have that extra information. If we click in here, we don't have it. So that is a huge pitfall to relocate your existing library. And at this moment, I don't know how to fix it. So Josh, this is a failed experiment, but at least you know the outcome, and that's an unfortunate outcome. Now the only thing I can suggest is let me move just one album back locally. Oh, for anybody else watching, if this was a movie or TV show library, I'd go back into Plex to edit it to the add folders, and I'd remove the original path. Plex would rescan. You'd keep your metadata changes like custom collections and that sort of thing, because these would scan in as duplicate movies or duplicate entries in Plex and not separate ones like a music library. And then you'd remove the old path, and you would have happily moved your movie or TV show library without any loss. So let's do this. Let's copy 3 of these back locally. And then we'll get Music Brains Picard back open. Almost finished. We'll cluster these again, and we'll look at the genre. So if you were adding a custom genre to this, you could do it in the metadata, and then that would be on both the original file and the new, well, both in the original library and the new library. But depending where your media is stored, you might not be able to use Music Brains Picard unless the media was local. If you've got a plain Jane Windows or Linux or Mac install, you can use Music Brains Picard to inject that extra metadata. And let's look and see what we have available. Let's add a new tag. These are all the possible tags you could add. So if you can get some of your metadata that's custom into the embedded information, you'll be able to have custom information move from one library to the other as it's scanned. But this may not be enough of an option for you past the genre information. I don't know, I don't think there's a mood option, and you mentioned that. But you might be able to add it custom, I'm not sure. But you have an existing music library, you just want to move it, and you don't want to go through all your work again. So I do consider this a failed experiment, and now you know why it fails. If I copied a movie library, and I can do that. Let me do that quickly to show you what happens. Let's get back to the NAS. Oh, I'm in music. Let's see, these are small files. So let me just copy these. New folder, movie dash kids dash new. So if I do the same thing, and I add a library, TV shows, browse, my alias, TV libraries, oh, sorry, I'm doing a movie relocation, so my mistake. Movie, next, browse, the alias, the movie sort folder, the new library, and I'll wait till it finishes before I click add. Alright, what do I do? The only change I make is let me see, sorry, I'm in the wrong headspace. Okay, so we're adjusting the kids' movie library. I have to watch myself sometimes. Oh, I don't have a kids' movie library set up here. Yes, I do, right here. Okay, this is where I want to be. Okay, so I have the path to the old and the path to the new folder structure. So if I go into the library and sort, I knew I had 9 media pieces in here, 9 folders selected. So we are going to come up with the 9 items duplicated. And actually, if I had thought about this better, I would have done this first. So let's get rid of the new. Let's see if we can force a scan quickly. All right, let me fix this delay. I don't want to wait for. Maybe I don't have to wait. All right, there's no duplicates, so this is good. So we'll do these first 3, and we'll put some custom metadata in. So we'll just add this to the first 3 episodes. Well, I call them episodes. They are in a TV show library, but they're really movie shorts. They're Looney Tune movie shorts that can easily be added to a TV show library if you only pull metadata from the TVDB. Well, not only metadata, but pull the episode sort from TVDB and name to the TVDB. Okay, so under more, we've got custom metadata. Let's just double check. Got it there. We have it there. So now let's add this path back in for the new location. And sometimes I think I should fully script out my videos, but if I don't have problems to solve while someone's watching me, they may not have the confidence to solve their own problems, and life isn't perfect. Okay, so we have the duplicate, and if I go into the first one, we still have the custom metadata. And I'm not going to wait for the credits, I'm going to edit this library again. And now I'll remove the original path, which is this one. Save changes. And the custom metadata I put in would be the same as if I was adding a custom collection. And that custom metadata was preserved for all three. So my advice is based on my knowledge of a Plex movie or TV show library, and I had to see if it would still apply to a music library, and unfortunately it doesn't. So Josh, I'm sorry about that. I'm not really sure how to solve your issue, besides with simple things like adding a custom genre to your existing metadata through the embedded metadata, not through Plex. A rescan of the library will pick that up, and then if you move that to a new location, that will be picked up on the next scan. But a Plex music library behaves differently because it uses embedded metadata and not just the naming, and Plex assumes you can have multiple versions of an album without there actually being much difference between them. So I'm sorry, but at least we've tested my theory and it failed and is not going to be helpful to you. But thanks for watching, and everybody else, thanks for watching too, and have a happy day.